Welcome everyone, thank you for joining us today on our webinar looking at the Windows Server 2016 licensing changes, specifically around the move from per processor to per core. Is your business core ready? My name's David Bloxham, the marketing manager at SoftwareONE, joined today by Tony McAworth, the head of our Microsoft Advisory Services, who will be taking us through today's session. Before I hand over to Tony, just a few housekeeping rules. You may have noticed as you join the call, you've been set on mute. This is just to ensure that sound quality remains at an optimum. If you do have any questions, we won't have time for Q&A at the end of today's session, but please feel free to use the chat box facility to ask any questions that come up on today's call. And what we'll do is collate those and collate the responses and send those in a follow-up email after the webinar. Tony, if you're there, I'll hand over to you.
Hi guys, thanks for joining today's webinar. Really interesting development for Microsoft with the launch of Windows Server 2016, so we wanted to brief you on what's new with Windows Server 2016 as well as the impact of the licensing changes to your organization and what you guys can start thinking about and doing to prepare your business so it's per core ready. In terms of myself, my name is Tony McAworth. I run the Microsoft Advisory Services practice at SoftwareONE. I am ex-Microsoft, moving into SoftwareONE to set up the consultancy division where we work with clients on various work programs, looking to advise them on not only their Microsoft technology and cloud roadmaps, but also then advising them on in terms of investment strategy, licensing, and helping get the best deal possible for them. We work across various clients, across various verticals, and we're really looking forward to the coming year with a lot of changes from Microsoft in terms of not only their licensing, but their solutions and cloud services portfolio has dynamically changed, so lots of interesting work for us at the moment. In terms of introducing you to the core of what we're really looking at today. Windows Server, being on a per processor model, really wasn't going to scale longer term, and really a lot of us saw this in the industry as the inevitable change, very much replicating the success of the per processor per core metric change for SQL Server, which essentially provided Microsoft with double-digit growth since the change in April 2012 with release of SQL 2012, and that's something that's consistently driven double-digit revenue growth for Microsoft in this space. Really, it's Microsoft capitalizing on the upward trend in terms of core densities at CPU level, and also and really this is a way for them to scale profitability in line with chipset trends, principally from Intel, but also AMD. You know, in principle, really, this means, what can it mean to you? Well, potentially a higher cost of renewal, depending on your own organization's respective architectures at the physical level. It's also Microsoft's response to start thinking about having a consistent licensing model that enables people to move from a on-premise to adoption of cloud services in a hybrid managed data center. This is something that's going to be aligning with a per core model for System Center, so they're really making that play to displace VMware in terms of not only having a hybrid management layer across your on-prem and cloud infrastructure, but also you know, heavily discounting that in terms of how they integrate those potentially as a combined licensing SKU called the CIS, or Core Infrastructure Suite, which has been around for several years, but there'll be a consistent per core metric across System Center and Windows Server, respectively. You can also see them driving through the traditional volume licensing model adoption of workloads on Azure, so potentially looking at infrastructure as a service or platform as a service offerings on Azure by offering a discount, essentially a discounted way to adopt Azure, to start spinning up Azure VMs. This is referenced by the Azure Hybrid Use Benefit, or HUB, which you may hear Microsoft using as a common acronym. But really that's giving you the ability to pay only for the Azure, to essentially pay only for the Azure base instance of up to 16 cores and say on those level D series VMs. But yeah, it's a way of essentially economically leveraging software licensing with software assurance, keeping you on a maintenance model for Windows Server, and also then incentivize adoption of Azure workloads. So you can see really what they're trying to achieve, and I suspect it'll be very successful because it will scale with the natural, as you refresh your environment, you'll see potentially increase the higher core densities from Intel as well as AMD. In terms of sort of Windows Server 2016, really, it's the first time for several years now that Microsoft have made a choice again to depart from feature parity between the editions. So it's typically the choice between a standard or a data center license. Previously was principally just around your VM densities and making a choice about whether or not you wanted to license the physical layer with data center edition to acknowledging that you'd have a reasonable high level number of VMs running. And really it was a licensing choice. It was about the commercials of, do I look at data center edition or do I stack standard? Going forward, there are some other considerations. Obviously Microsoft are positioning Data Center Edition to really enable that seamless management of hybrid infrastructure, virtualized infrastructures. Really, they made huge steps in terms of what I call kind of really cloud-ready technology developments in terms of not only the containerization technology in terms of cloud-native app development and support across platforms, but also development of that that's reflected in also their nano server development as well. So it's Microsoft having a cloud-centric SaaS strategy, and this is reflected in Windows Server having ongoing features and security updates on a service branch model. So you'll now see service branches, Windows Server, as well as System Center, respectively, very much reflecting their rapid release cadence in terms of new features. So you will be procuring with software assurance and accessing not only ongoing security updates, but also potentially new features going forward. You'll see advantages in terms of volume licensing, getting you additional access, cheaper access to cloud services in terms of not only the Azure hybrid use benefit, but also reserved compute in the sense that you can pre-buy a compute resource with your volume licensing. So is Microsoft desperately trying to simplify procurement of cloud services using traditional volume licensing models. So yeah, the consideration is that obviously it's not going to be a static image. It's going to have a current branch for business model similar to Windows 10. There'll be ongoing updates. Software assurance will be required really going forward to support in terms of Azure hybrid workloads, if you want to have license mobility to spin up workloads on target cloud destinations, as well as also needing software assurance for Nano Server to run that in production. And just to give you an overview of what Microsoft are doing, it's not only a branch model and making a choice between the editions, but also then there's going to be new install options. So you have your traditional full desktop GUI, graphical user interface, as you normally expect, will still be available, but also there'll be a core install option which offers no GUI but remote access with PowerShell, or a Nano Server option which is a headless small footprint approach with remote access only. So that's some considerations for you guys there. Also there's some considerations at the moment if you're actually planning on installing Windows Server 2016 in terms of the current supported applications for it. At the moment, you will be supported, but there's some considerations around Exchange 2016, Skype for Business 2015, BizTalk 2016, and Visual Studio TFS 2015. Need to check support on those, and that's listed on the website. There's also Microsoft starting to introduce certification for partners in terms of developing an accredited ecosystem for applications running on Windows Server 2016. Again, I'm starting to see this as Microsoft trying to get competitive advantage over, say, AWS or VMware, respectively. So just some considerations that, yeah, for the first time, you're going to have that different parity in terms of features It's not just a licensing decision. It's about whether or not you want to really enable a cloud first or hybrid virtual infrastructure for your business, and you can, and also just and responding to a ongoing update branch update model going forward. So you can see here, reflects respectively, similarly with System Center, some differentiation in terms of rights, particularly around containerization. So it's another metric over and above cores you may want to start thinking about. So it'll be interesting to see how the industry develops to also track containerization sprawl as well as VM sprawl in the business. So something for your software asset managers and yourselves and infrastructure to really consider going forward. Microsoft are of course also thinking about having a cloud-centric management layer. Really, System Center really is going to really come under something called Microsoft Operations Management Suite. It's that cloud single pane of glass for managing not only your on-prem, giving you the on-prem rights to System Center, but also cloud-centric developed services with OMS themselves. And you can see the features on the left there in terms of log analytics, process automation, etc. So you can kind of see how Microsoft want to lead with the cloud offering with the traditional System Center wrapped in. And you'll note that, of course, would have been made aware of from a endpoint device-based licensing model for System Center Management Suite, Client Management Suite, that really being broken out of the eCal last year. So customers going forward were buying that standalone for their desktop clients. This is really on the server side, but putting that core System Center technology stack within the OMS-led sales motion. So that's what Microsoft are really going for, and we'll be advising customers on what they'll be looking at from OMS going forward to enable that cloud hybrid strategy which Microsoft is striving for. And you can see really Microsoft are planning to align OMS, unfortunately, into more EPANs. You can see an E1 and E2 there. So there's some consideration about what you may want to look at from a cloud-centric management layer going forward. So there's some options there for OMS, something you may want to consider in addition to the traditional core infrastructure suite model. So what do you guys really need to think about here for Windows Server? Well, what's the impact going to be to my business is going to be the first question. We've done some analysis across a large data set pool of anonymized data from our work with many customers in terms of software management work. And we're typically looking at a trend of potentially a 22% uplift in spend at renewal. So if you think about you moving from processor, you potentially to a higher core footprint, it could potentially be 22%. It ranged from between 10 and 22% based on industry. The average was 22%, but obviously it depends on your own respective organizations in terms of your investment in high density virtualized data centers, in terms of you've got predominantly an ESX-based environment, perhaps with high core densities, or if you're proactively looking at a refresh over your next contract term, you may see an upfront immediately based on what you've done with your environment, or potentially over that next contract term, you can see that slow sprawl in increase in spend as you refresh devices going forward with high density physical layers, physical CPUs. So yeah, we're in terms of the analysis provided, actually about 4 in 10 servers were already in excess of 8 cores. So you can see Microsoft aren't doing this equitably in the sense that there was going to be no increase. They're seeing obviously the more digital businesses will already be in excess of 8 cores for about 40% of their environment. Interesting considerations is that customers don't want to be put out of pocket, so Microsoft have maintained the concept of a license grant. So we work with customers to identify their current state environment, identify those servers which are in excess of 8 cores, and access a license grant for them. So what this means is that you're not actually going to have to true up, But of course, you will need to renew potentially a higher software assurance footprint to reflect that. So yes, you may be able to get some significant savings by securing those license grants for your business, and you can show that back to your business that you've saved that money. But of course, there could be potentially be an uplift in renewal in terms of software assurance maintenance spend. The average number of CPUs is 8.59, but I've seen in some digital businesses across everything from law firms to logistics, closer to an average of 10 cores per CPU, but actually some more traditional in industries like manufacturing are more closer to 5.5 or 6. Doesn't mean they don't have those outliers with high density CPUs, but it's something that you need to assess for your business. But just so you guys can build a business case around it, I would use the number potentially of 22%. And what would that look like commercially to your business if you were spending 22% more on your Windows Server and System Center spend? So worthwhile evaluating for your own business. An average cost of £773 per server increase potentially based on the analysis we've done. So what are the challenges for you going forwards? And I think you're already ticking some boxes in your own mind. It's not only stepping away from that programmatic renewal, which could potentially sting you by not securing those license grants, but also not pre-planning around that potential uplift in maintenance spend. There's definitely opportunities for consolidation and control to look at how you actually plan for that renewal so you can mitigate any potential uplifts in advance. You've also got considerations like end of support. We're obviously already aware of 2003 already being out of support and the potential impact of custom support agreements, but also the fact you've already got 2008 and 2008 R2 already in extended support. So Microsoft are very much creating conditions of a perfect storm for not only an uplift in licensing spend, but an upgrade motion onto 2016 as well, all coming together at the same time. Of course, you're going to be looking at you securing your license grants and doing that current state inventory analysis so you can avoid any potential non-compliance. I think you quite rightly say that you shouldn't be made programmatically non-compliant by Microsoft changing the rules. So license grants are really your chance there to get ahead of that and secure those license grants for your business. But balancing that with a pragmatic approach in terms of looking at your future state, planning and architecture opportunities to really save. So really that's what we want to try and enable our customers to do and potentially align that with potential opportunities around Azure to make smart investments where it makes sense. So in terms of sort of my recommendations for you guys is, get per core ready. Understand your current state environment, identify the smart investments in Microsoft Azure, leveraging Microsoft's very much strategic desire to drive those workloads. Understand if you can secure free license grants and go get them if it's right for you to do so. So work with us to advise you on what you should be declaring, how you should be declaring it to secure those grants and enable that SA footprint renewal without having to do a true up on those offer per number per core licenses. Look at optimizing your licensing at that point in terms of your current state, but also planning around where you plan it to be in the future. Perhaps it's going to be more consolidated. Maybe you're looking at some investments in Azure workloads as well. So really we'd like to bring this together into having a strategic approach coming up to renewal to really enable you to get the best deal for your business and also enable you to ensure you're compliant and get the right technology choices as well. As I've said, custom support is something to think about. It is costly. I've seen pricing of roughly about $35,000 per instance per annum. So if you are looking at needing end of support now or in the future, something you may want to plan around in advance, look at candidates for upgrade, secure consolidation, or migration to Azure or secure decom. So there's really opportunities there. I think really you can cut a chunk out of the cost of your business if we take a practical view, working collaboratively with you under NDA to really think about what your future state is going to be. To give you a view of kind of the work programs we kind of work through, nothing you wouldn't be surprised by. You'd be surprised by, we tend to like to understand the current state environment of the server environment. I would look at Windows Server within that System Center, but also why not look at SQL at the same time? It is the biggest driver of costs for every business I work with, usually. we can work with our technology services teams. We have dedicated solution architects. We've invested an incredible amount of money in trying to get the best people in the business to identify your future hybrid or cloud strategy, identify CAS smart investments in this year, and then we can align that to build out a future state strategy for your business that combines not only a licensing strategy, giving you a clear view of your commercial options, and also your future state design options in terms of this year workloads being included in that as well. We also offer some optional services with us. We would love to do potentially some Azure production pilots with you, to work on for various workloads, so you can actually then look at that future state and actually then get some pilots going forward or proof of concepts for your business. We've also invested an incredible amount of money in our CoreCloud Pro digital platform. It will allow you at outset, when you start spinning up workloads on Azure, to monitor that usage in terms of providing you real-time analytics and forecasting in terms of what the spend will be, and you can manage that business-wide or by a team or department. So really, it's answering that big question of is, when I move workloads to Azure, are they just going to remain static, and I'm not really going to leverage the benefits of that elasticity drive for demand in terms of spinning up and spinning down resources as and when I require. So really, it's us really helping you, giving you that really spend management layer for Azure, giving that live analytics and metering and predictive analytics in terms of forecast spend. So really quite cool. We do that for Office 365 as well in terms of, but this is really focused on the Azure consumption and analytics module of that. So it's something we'd definitely like to spin up with you guys and really get you having that cloud-ready management layer ready for any target workloads or any existing Azure workloads you've already invested in as a business. In terms of kind of getting you to the best deal, this is really the structure of what you'd be looking at. We take work through customers to understand the current state environment, assess the optimum licensing and the impact of any end of support, secure those license grants with you, work smartly with you in collaboration to identify target upgrades or Azure candidates, really optimize your current state environment, and then start planning around a candidate future state for your business that drives what you need to deliver for your business in terms of cost savings, but as well as aligning with any consolidation programs you may be looking at, as well as candidates for Azure in terms of providing you a high-level design and adoption plan for it. And then you can go back to the business with, this is what it's going to cost me now, this is what it's going to cost me in the future, this is where I've saved money, this is where I can save money, and then we can help you obviously negotiate that final deal as part of your wider enterprise agreement renewal, if you guys have got that coming up over the next year. So what are we really saying the benefits of this service are? No-brainer. If you've ever worked with SoftwareONE, we've got a strong focus on licensing spend optimization. We want to get you the license grants that are due to your business, and we've got a dedicated SAM team that will be working with you to secure those license grants. We'll be a solution architect to work with you to identify if there's any opportunity for smart investments in Azure and where they rely to sit in your business. Of course, we want to make sure you're compliant going up to renewal, and of course, if you're doing this type of work program, you're obviously mitigating the risk of any audits Microsoft might be looking at over the next year. And of course, it's better to go into this with your eyes wide open and do it proactively, as opposed to being on the back foot with, say, a Deloitte-led audit where you perhaps don't have that freedom to make the smart decisions you need to for your business. And we can obviously give you a predictable commercial forecast in terms of what it will cost, optimized, of course, in terms of not only licensing, but contract and sourcing options, and also giving you a view of your wider negotiation strategy for the business. So we take a holistic view to this. We're really using our expertises across software asset management, software procurement and licensing, as well as our solution architects experience with regards to Azure hybrid workloads as well. So in terms of the actions for your business, what I'd recommend, check when your software assurance renewals are coming up from Windows Server and System Center. Have a look and have a think about what would a 10 to 22% uplift in spend, would it be material? Is it really something I need to look at? But obviously, if you don't have a clear view of your current state environment, is something you're going to definitely want to go check in terms of due diligence, so you don't get any unbudgeted spend coming on the horizon. Definitely consider locking in the license grants. We have developed a process to go secure these for you in a smart way, working with Microsoft and with your clear approval. We will work with you to identify quick wins to optimize your environment to make those savings up front. I would strongly consider, why not add on SQL Server to this if you want to develop a wider business case. If there's ever been a case for unbudgeted spend, it's been SQL at Renewal, and that continues to be a huge driver of cost for all our businesses, all our customers that don't work on proactive programs around it. We will of course then work with you to look at your future projects and your future investments to give you that license design and investment modeling. So if you've got any future projects you're looking at and you've got technical designs for, it might be worth working with us as a license design authority to give you that wider TCO for your business. I think really getting the best deal for the wider business in terms of Microsoft renewals is really going into things with your eyes wide open. So Windows Server is part of a wider piece to enable your renewal negotiation advantage. Go into it with your eyes wide open, optimize it up front, and know what your plan is ahead of time. Of course, we would love you to think about developing some workloads in terms of POCs or production pilots with us on the basis of our workshops with you. We also believe we can have a digital platform at outset that can really get you that best practice digital ready business that businesses require, so you can really take advantages of the cloud. So please work with us in these areas. The last two there are optional, but but something we definitely will incorporate to this wider consideration. Obviously, tapping into any available investment funding, working with our teams as applicable for any strategic projects. And just hot off the press, really within the last couple of weeks, Azure is also probably is a good time to buy, in the sense that Microsoft are really making very visible competition with AWS to make sure they're very visibly price competitive. There's now very much a pricing parity across agreements, but continue to work with us, and we can identify opportunities around hybrid use benefit, the Azure hybrid use benefit, or reserved compute procurement through licensing to access competitive pricing on Azure over and above the already competitive pricing listed on the Azure portal. So, on the surface, the pricing is going to be equated across the enterprise agreement and the MPSA, as well as the online portal, so that they're very visibly competitive with AWS. So essentially, it's been publicly announced price cuts varying from 11% to about 51%. Across the Azure stack. So it's not a bad time. Microsoft still see Azure as very strategic in the coming year. So if we can wrap some smart investments in Azure into your strategy, it will certainly help you in terms of your wider strategic relationship with Microsoft, as well as taking advantage of obviously the merits of hybrid and cloud computing anyway. So thanks for taking the time on the call today. I've gone through it about half an hour, which is going to give you guys some time back. I know we've set aside longer than that on the call, but hopefully that was useful. As David said at the start of the call, if you have any questions for the extended team, please get them over to us, and we can start thinking about how we can help your respective businesses in this. What do you need us to do out of these sort of capabilities we have? From anything from doing some sound discovery work for you guys, to securing those license grants, to working around, planning around in support, as right-sizing your Azure in terms of target workloads, and getting you the wider licensing commercial strategy for your business. So that's it in a nutshell. Hopefully that was useful, guys. Lots of things to think about, not only the technical features in terms of the 86 new features across Windows Server 2016, and the install options and considerations around supported applications and service branches, but also it's also thinking about planning around the licensing strategy and securing those grants and mitigating any spend increases and enabling cost reduction for your business.
So that's in a nutshell. Lots to think about, but really, really looking forward to doing a lot of work programs with our clients over the next few years on this. It's going to be something I think we're going to be very busy with. So really, really look forward to doing these workloads with you guys. We've already got some customers starting these programs with us already. So thanks for your help.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Tony. So just to reiterate, we will be sending the slides and recording of the session out to everyone that's attended today. So thank you very much for joining the session. Hope it's been of valuable use for you and your time and giving you some actionable insights. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars and events.